Greetings and salutations to you, people of the interwebs. So, we have some Tfytc homework. Baz, who's the new admin for the Tfytc, is set a challenge. A figure that used to shine. It was like a shining beacon of transformative. Somehow lost that shine, but is still a cherished figure. I think that's kind of how it goes. So what figure do you think is a figure that was excellent, had its time in the sun, but now it's kind of like, yeah, it's not so well, gets past maybe, but is still an absolute cracking figure. And my mind went to this guy. Cast your mind back, if you can, to the early 2000s, where there was a trilogy of Transformers. It was called the Unicron trilogy. Now, for the first kind of arc of this, the Armada arc, or the first part of the Armada arc, this guy was the flagship product, in a way, in a pun as well. Before Unicron came along, this was the dude, man. Tidal Wave. Tidal Wave's a brand new character. I never really saw the Unicron trilogy. I watched a few episodes of Armada, couldn't get into it. I was a young man, 20s, maybe even mid-20s, when this came out. Was I a Transformers collector, or was I just some random mid-20s person who was buying toys? I think it was more the later, because I didn't really, anywhere to display them. I wasn't doing that. I was buying toys just to that toy fix, really, rather than having any kind of purpose or definition. Or I think a collector has purpose and kind of, there's a purpose and there's something defined about collecting, whereas just going like, you know what, I've got some money and I want to buy a toy to make me feel better in a way. It'd been some hard times at that age, but so I think we're not talking about all that kind of regressing into regrets of an early age, but this guy came along, and I wasn't really, how I say, big into the cartoon and stuff, but this looked like an absolutely amazing figure. And you know what? He was an absolutely amazing figure, and he is an absolutely amazing figure, and he's got all these introduction to heavy ratchets going on. This is the guy. If you want to go, what's a ratchet? Here you go. Don't hand him an ambulance, guy. This is a ratchet. Just all the different. You could make a mix. You could make a mix. You could mix these together and make some kind of tune of just the different. Just the different sounds. All these ratchets have different sounds. That is great. He's got sailor's legs, so he doesn't have a cool knee joint. The way that he connects together means, he does have a waist swivel. That's some of the things you forget. You're not picking it up for a while. So he does have a waist swivel, but he just doesn't have that knee joint. And that, other than that, would have made him a perfect figure. But the thing is, this guy, this wave, the great tradition of Decepticon waves, sound wave, shock wave, tidal wave. But did tidal wave ever cement his place into that great family of Transformers? No, he didn't. He was in the Armada thing. He got reformatted into somebody else, random, and was hardly ever seen ever again. He had a kick-ass level in the Armada computer game. Very memorable. Like, facing off against that guy was, that was video game gold right there. When he's lurking in front of you, like, when you're a little Optimus. Gold. But mostly after that period, he was forgotten. The Unicron trilogy passed by, and a lot of people chose to forget it because it wasn't very good. Apologies to any of you Unicron trilogy fans out there, all 12 of you. But yeah, mostly the Transformers fandom was like, let's move on to something else that maybe is less seizure-inducing, and you know, we have characters that we recognise. That became the thing. Classics and all that type of stuff started to emerge. Then the Bayverse, where we had characters that we knew the names of, but did not recognise the way they looked. Whereas Armada was almost like, here's characters that you like, that you recognise the look of, but aren't named what you thought they should be named. But yeah, the Michael Bay stuff happened. The classic stuff. We got animated, which was very good. I mean, this guy does appear in the Almanac. And, you know, generally, it was a figure that people remembered fondly. But because Tidal Wave existed in that age of the year 2000, you know, around the start of the 2000s, the early 2000s, it was not really a figure, because there wasn't a big YouTube reviewing things back then. We didn't go on to MySpace and start telling MySpace Tom about our Transformers. It just wasn't a thing. That end of the social interaction, the whatever they're called, the social interaction programs, you know, Facebook wasn't a thing back then. Social media, it was, computers were just for nerds. I enjoyed going on a computer back then. So yeah, he was fondly remembered, but it was, yeah, there's not a big, vast record of how much people love this toy. It's just whenever he's bought up, people go, oh, yeah, I fucking love Tidal Wave. So why does he shine it? Well, when I moved here, I went to my parents and I got out of my loft some of the figures I owned back in the day, and this guy was amongst them. Just remembered that love of that figure and how great a figure he is. And this is a guy who's gone onto one of my shelves since around that time. And no matter what other cool stuff I've bought, this guy has kept his place. He's never, you know, been shifted off to be replaced by a new and sexier model. He's remained in his place. In fact, this is how it is now. This is how it is. They made a Tidal Wave as a repaint of Broadside for the Titans Return line. Is it a patch on this figure? Of course it isn't. It's some little Voyager. Bad Voyager. It's a bad Voyager figure. And we're reaching that stage now where, as much as we can reinvent our G1 characters for Siege or War for Cybertron, or for War for Cybertron Siege, or for Combiner Wars or Power of the Primes and all this type of stuff, we can get to our G1, we can make a deluxe out of a combiner figure, combiner limb, because the combiner limbs in G1 were just blocks. So with Deluxe, that looks like every other Deluxe in the line, is an absolute marked improvement of what we got in G1. Most of the figures that we get are such a big improvement on G1. Maybe not in the terms of paint, maybe not in the terms of material, but in the aesthetics and the articulation and everything like that, they are better figures, subjectively. But now, when we start, if you start to think about going, well, should we do modern line representations of Beast Wars figures, of Armada figures, of Cybertron and Galaxy Force, whatever else, of animated, of Prime, Transformers Prime. We're getting into lines now that in modern day production values, costs, returns, they cannot make figures as good as what they used to be able to. You could not make a mass retail version of Tidal Wave that's as good as this Tidal Wave is. It'd not be as heavy, it'd not be as stocky, it wouldn't have as many ratchets. These would all just be universals, and they just hope and pray that they could hold up. It wouldn't be built like this. You might have knees. We'd have a lot more hollow stuff going on. He's got hollow stuff, but it's all kinds of serves a purpose. It's there for a reason. It's not just random hollow bits to save space. So that's the thing. That's why this guy still shines. It's because you couldn't do this at mass retail anymore. Even though you try to replace him. Sometimes when you try to replace something, when you release something that's intended to be an updated version of this, of an old figure, it makes the old figure shine because you go, sorry son, but this is the real deal. Shine on, Tidal Wave. Shine on, you big boaty bastard. That's the end of my video. Thanks, Baz, for setting this challenge for the oh, that's when you look over here, isn't it? The Tfytc. The Tfytc. There's nothing written there. That's my homework done, sir. Good sir. Be excellent to each other. Party on, dudes, and because you deserve it, let's bump fists, shall we? Bestow! Fisto!